What's going on, creators? Yeah, I just want to get on here and bring everybody back to now. Appreciate y'all being here and vibing with me for a bit. Yeah, today I got some things on the old agenda to talk about. Hopefully it adds something positive to your mental diet for today. I feel like your mental diet is just as important as your physical diet, probably even more so for your state of being. Filling your consciousness with heavenly things, things that feel good, things that bring peace. But then, I hear the well, that's just not reality, Mike. It's like, well, neither is listening to made up narratives. That's it's one of those things where it's like you can start focusing your attention on what you want versus just listening to somebody else tell you their narrative. It's like reacting. I've been noticing just on Twitter, probably, I don't know, for a couple months now, you start seeing a lot of pushback with a lot of the COVID shit and the hysteria. And you're starting to see a lot of like, well, experts say that natural, whatever like the talking point is like that's like contrary, or it's just like, why would I get a shot that doesn't work, has side effects when I've already had COVID, I'm immune to it, and I'm not worried about even catching it again. If I encounter some fucking scenario that's never happened in my life, catching the same thing twice, but like, I'm supposed to throw all of that out for some supposed expert, because they said so, even though they've been wrong every single step of the way so far. But the thing of it is, you're starting to see a lot of like pushback, just in like the headlines of like, oh, well, experts say it's perfectly normal for teenagers to have heart attacks, and now experts say it's perfectly normal for people to have this mysterious illnesses and shit, and just, all this type of stuff. And you can look at that, as like, well, they're trying to force the narrative, but I started to realize the other day, it's just like, well, it looks more like they're just starting to react, which means they've lost the narrative, which means they don't have the control of anything, which, brings it down to like the shift has already happened. And that might be a couple mental gymnastics, but there's some experience that kind of goes along with that's kind of pushing that kind of observation then too, but ultimately that doesn't even matter though. It's like that's it's like Neville Goddard, the Bible would say, it's like that's the world, that's the world of Caesar. Just let that be. It's only a reflection anyway. It's a reflection of consciousness. And so, part of like the problems of like the old mind is like, oh, I gotta just get in there and just shake the shit up, and I need the world to be a certain way so I feel better. It's the same kind of thinking of like, oh, if I only had a better job, then I could feel better. If I just had a better marriage, then I could be happy. If I only had more money, then I could feel like I made it. It's like all of these external carrots, all these things out here, on the out, what is that? I don't know why I can't highlight that. All the things out here, there, all the things out here, that a lot of times the old mind thinks is how we attain, states of consciousness. It's like, oh, well, the outer causes the inner state. And it's actually backwards, which is not shocking because the inversion of like the world is backwards, and so knowing that though, you can start to put your faith in like the inner beliefs that God's going to provide it. It's like these, all these worries and these concerns, these states, that the mind wrestles with normally are just states of fear from the old man, which is just recreating the past every time you experience the present. It's like you're trying to shift from like scarcity to abundance. Any of these types of like major shifts, ultimately there's like only one shift from fear to love, but there's many different flavors and ways that kind of plays out. But like looking at for this example, it's like, moving from scarcity to abundance. It's like you can't hold the scarcity beliefs if you're going to embody the state of abundance. So, but, in that there's a different frequency, that's in play, where there's a combination of the fear, love, and faith and all that kind of shit, where it's just like kind of balance, and looking at your life, it's reflecting exactly where you're at. So instead of like sitting there just feeling like a victim, like, oh, there's a they that's doing something to me, that I'm a helpless victim, that I just need to react and react and react. I can't create anything. Start letting go of those limiting beliefs, because ultimately God is with you and within you and like for you and not against you. And so all of these like desires, the yeah, all of them. It's like the Bible talks about, delight yourself in the Lord, and the Lord will give you the desires of your heart. Ask, believe, receive. As Jesus would say, you've already can connect with these states. What you actually desire is to feel love. The old mind doesn't know how that happens though, because the old mind is basically created out of an illusion of separation, that you're separate from God and separate from people, separate from your life, separate from everything, and there's all these forces and wills and all of this shit going on, where it's like you're just like a little brain in a body that needs to keep itself safe from danger, and all this kind of shit. It's just like, start looking at all those limiting beliefs, and all them things, and then instead of like you got to work for it, you got to earn it through sacrifice and grind and misery and everything else. Realize that Jesus already did the work, and it's just like a process now of receiving the blessing. It's like you put your faith like Jesus did it. Jesus did the work, fulfilled the law. It's like you're under grace. That's what the Bible says. You're under grace, and so it's really important to start to implement that in your present moment awareness. That anytime you get these little anxieties, these little fears, these little scarcities, these little what ifs, worst case scenarios, the undesirable, basically. It's just like look at that and immediately realize that the contrast has already been experienced by God. By you just having these fearful thoughts, God knows what the truth is, what it is contrary to the undesirable, and is already experiencing it. So it's a matter of getting out of this identity, this room, is a way to look at it, and entering a new room. You can't bring the living room into the bedroom, you can't bring the living room into the kitchen. Look at all of these states as separate kind of spaces that you can occupy in your consciousness, and you start to do that now. It's like, realize that you're already blessed now. Everything that you're desiring, that you want, God's already given it to you. You just don't believe it. You just don't believe that that's real. And that's the problem. That's the resistance. You just it's like, I could feel that kind of at the moment, where it's just like, going from Thanksgiving to Christmas, it historically has been a somewhat slow time for my handyman business, and not to say that that's real or the reality. It wasn't real last year. Last year I got a renovation job that lasted that whole time. But I have people working for me now, and so it's like, my wife, she's doing a job for me, for a customer. Right now my guy's has the day off. He's gonna be working tomorrow. But so there's like a little bit of anxiety, some fear of like scarcity, of like not enoughness, like there's not enough jobs to provide for my employ or whatever. I'm so bad with labels. My guy, my wife, provide for myself and everything else. And so it's like you feel that scarcity kind of creep in a little bit, but instead of believing that that's real, realize that every time that you change rooms, that you go from like the living room to the kitchen, a lot of times you're confronted with the beliefs that keep you in the living room, that keep you in that identity. And that old story, is another way, the mental story of, I'm not worthy to go in the kitchen. Oh, I got to stay in this little box, because if I, this is, whatever narrative, then you start to tell yourself about how great the living room is, or how great your current state of consciousness is. That's between you and God, what you're saying. But one of the things that you can start to do, especially if you're kind of being confronted with the resistance, with the limiting beliefs, the limiting assumptions, that are manifesting in a life situation is to, instead of using your ego mind, which only defines the present moment activities by past experience. If all your past experience has kept you in the living room, you can't look to your past experience to get you to the kitchen. Because if you could use that past experience to get to the kitchen, you would have already done it. So it's a matter of, like, you get the past thoughts and beliefs and all that come up when you're confronted with the situation. But Course in Miracles gives it some really, I feel like, is enlightening advice to look at things through a lens of, I don't know what any of this is for, and I don't know what this is. I don't know what this is for, and asking God to help you to understand it. Where in the past, you depended on your own experience, but with that, it kind of cycles you in these patterns where it's like experience, and then action, and then it creates your faith is in this specific thing, and then you continue to strengthen that and strengthen that and strengthen that to a point where that thought now becomes a belief, and now it becomes more of a concrete thing in your own life. It's not the same for everybody, but for you, I mean, you could believe that very strongly, where somebody else, a person on the street, could be like, conspiracy theory. But like another thing you can kind of do too, when you're being confronted with like the opposite, when you're starting to feel maybe a little scarcity, a little fear, a little and it doesn't always have to be some major storm. It's like, that's kind of the misconception too. I feel like it's like always some just big drama fest. It's like, no, it can just be these little, oh, what if they laugh at me? Oh, what if I got something weird and somebody's talking shit that I don't realize? Or, it's like, oh, what if, just little petty things, these little scraps of fear in the mind that just keep you from feeling good and feeling happy and feeling at peace. Look at these things more and more so when they happen, and realize that you are creating that in your mind. It's a reflection of your state. And you can easily change the state by changing rooms, by just asking, believing, and then receiving the new state. And as you receive it in consciousness first, as you're able to connect with it more and more so, you're able to have like a kind of an imaginary experience. But then if you hold on to that as part of your new identity, is this kind of flow, you start to see that being reflected more and more in your life. So as you move states first in consciousness, and then through a bridge of incidents, a lot of times being confronted with the resistance that's kept you in the living room, you being confronted with that, standing in that, walking through it, and letting God fight that battle for you. You don't have to do it. That's the biggest takeaway. It's like the old mind is constant. I got to force it through. I got to battle, and it's like I can feel that like with music. It's like, well, I just need to make some tracks, and I have to put them out there. I gotta get the phone ringing, all that kind of shit. Where it's just like, I need to trust that everything's unfolding exactly the way it needs to be, that this is not even a real problem, that things are working out perfectly, that perfect people are listening to the tracks, that are having it for a specific reason, it's all coming together perfectly, the customers want a handyman business, have plenty of work for my helper, and my wife wants to take on more jobs, all that kind of stuff, not to sit there and fear and worry about it. It's like, would I worry about that if I was, really convinced that God takes pleasure in prospering me? A lot of it has to do with just not believing the promises of God. So it's helpful when faced with the undesirable, when you're experiencing in the shadow world, the resistance and stuff, is to, I'll put it in the description. I like listening to this, like, it's like a 3-hour loop of like promises of God from the Bible, and it's important to remember these things, because again, the old mind likes to think it needs to figure it out, while the new creation that you are realizes that God's already created the plan. You're perfectly part of that plan right now. You're in perfect harmony with it. It's you can't screw it up. Every thought you think, everything you're doing is a healing process, and it's only going to get better and better and better. You don't got to worry about it. It's like part of that worry is keeping you holding a brick that's keeping you at this level of consciousness. When you let go of that limiting belief or the assumptions, you start to rise in consciousness and rise in more elevated states of love and joy and peace. And not to say that it's like throughout the day is just perfectly blissed out. Not to say that that can't be real, but like that's something I continue to kind of look for when faced with different challenges that happen during the day. Jesus made it kind of clear that don't worry about tomorrow. Let tomorrow worry about itself. You got enough stuff going on today. With where you're at in your spiritual walk, versus like you don't have to you don't have to keep fretting and worrying about it. God knows what you need, and God wants to give it to you. It's like a lot of times, as hard as it is to accept, it's like we push it away. We push it away every single time. And like why we do, maybe not feeling worthy of like feeling good or feeling happy or things working out good for a change, instead of just being a shit show all the time. It's like even when it comes to what's going on in the world, so much of that is unknown. It's easy, like for me, like to have like an old definition of oh, what's happening. Well, the old mind says, oh, it's obvious. They trick people, and then that by their own believing lies, they self-destruct. That's kind of what the old mind thinks. But like what's God say about what's going on right now? It's like, oh, it's like an awakening, and it's part of God's plan. Everything's happening perfectly. It's why don't you be the change you want to see, and see that reflected out, instead of just blaming others and blaming creation. Just trusting more and more so that God fights this battle. We don't got to do it. We just got to be still, hold on to the state, walk into the kitchen. We'll go into the new room, embody it, and allow whatever's happening in the present moment not to be resistant towards it. Because in that resistance, you're saying that there's something separate going on, and in that separateness, you're ultimately not accepting yourself either. Because in a lot of ways, you have created this scenario in your mind. It's like the narrative, the story that you're telling you. It's like, oh, it's like you just have somebody like, oh, here's a pen, and it's like somebody could see that and go, oh, he's just signaled. He's just what was on there. Let me get into the bottom of it. He must be in on it. He must be a deceiver. Let me try to figure this out. And then whatever you're putting on, you'll be able to find it with you can look through my shit. It's like you find probably anything to support anything, or hear it however you want to hear it. It's so many times we don't encounter the outer world the way it is. We encounter it the way we are. It's weird, and I started noticing that especially having like a crew of guys working for me. It was just like the stuff I would say, I thought was very clear, direct, and simple, and it would just turn into a convoluted. It's like, what? How did you hear that? It's like that word that never even came out of my mouth. It's like that's why I started getting into texting stuff, so I could, I didn't shift through the multiverse. Here it is. What do you make of this? I send it to you clear as day. Are we from a different reality again? Or are we on the same page? And so, but like part of like, getting into these new scenarios, like stepping into, the kitchen, I'm just going to keep using that kind of metaphor, stepping into the kitchen and not embracing the old definitions and the way everything. Oh, there's all these separate things. There's me. There's this is graphic. It's like there's only one thing going on, But like the problem is continuously listening to the wrong guide. When that guide brings fear, anxiety, stress, vengeance, anger, not feeling worthy, being chronically just what if, trying to keep yourself safe from danger, trying to manipulate things just so that you can not be hurt. It's like all these kind of things. When you can look through it with the new mind and ask God, hey, what do you make of this? How do you feel about what's going on right now? It's like we're connected. You're within me somewhere. It's like you feel calm, and that's within me. Can I connect with that calmness then? Can we become one? And feel that. And sure you can. It's like all things are possible for you to do. And so connecting with Christ within you is important. It's like, well, what does that mean? It's like you are discovering what that means through personally experiencing it. It's like, you can hear, I could come up with some language, of like, whatever, and like, label things in a specific way, right, verbiage, but to accurately express that idea, it has to come from within you, and that it gets implanted, by God within you. There's only one. It's like with music. There's only one musician. There's only, it's just how well you can allow that to come through. There's like only one author. There's only one creative expression. It's how well can you express that without the distortion, is one thing, but not to sit there and shame and guilt yourself either, because everything is super, super individual, but also one. It's part of a mystery. It's like, how can a snowflake be one with all of creation, yet every single one of them is unique? It's the same thing with everything. Everything's got a consciousness to it that's unique, and at a different kind of frequency is a way to maybe visualize that. Not to sit, but and then it's like, well, I'm at the top of I'm the goat. I'm on top of the pyramid. I'm just gonna bask in the awesomeness of that. It's like, you can connect with God's energy. It's like, well, how about we spend today just connecting with joy? Wouldn't that be fun? Have fun today. Wouldn't that be a good thing to put into practice? I think I'm going to put that into practice. Doing something that brings joy, that's fun, and trusting that God will bring that experience. It's one of those things. It's really simple because you don't actually have to do the work, but it's hard because you think you have to. And so it's kind of letting go, allow God's mysterious ways. Keep this in mind. God's always taking me along the path of least resistance, instead of like, I gotta battle through all this resistance. Part of like all the resistance is battling in your own mind. Just battling and strengthening the problem, which is not helping the problem. So it's like, it might feel good, I guess, in a weird way, to like sit there and like fight and battle and deal with all this drama, and especially if you're almost like normalized to that, like that's normal to have drama and chaos and dysfunction. But that doesn't have to be how you experience life. You can experience it differently, and letting trusting that God's bringing you the perfect experiences, the perfect people to whatever. It's all seamlessly coming together, and you're perfectly in it now. Either you're consciously aware of it or you're unconsciously aware of it. Doesn't matter, it just is. It's what's going on. And so so if that's the case, then try to enjoy the ride a little bit more. Go from the living room to the kitchen to the bedroom to the game room. Just flow through these different states. Because a lot of times we get the thing, it's like, oh, if I only had $1 billion, then I could be happy. If I only had a perfect marriage, then I could be happy. If I only lived in an ideal society, then I could be happy. If I only had a government that wasn't retarded, then I could be happy. If I only had all of these all of these prerequisites, when the actual thing of it is, you can be happy now because you're blessed. God's already blessed you. God loves you, and you're safe. Everything's okay. And you just have to connect with the, and as you do, then that will reflect into your life, and you'll see it more and more so, rippling through culture and rippling through, the world, whatever the world is, and so, with that being said, I think I'm gonna bounce. I think I'm gonna work on some more music things. I released a recording the other day. It's kind of a weird series of events. I can't even remember what I call it. I think it's like symposium or something. The I don't even know what that is. It's just in naming tracks. What I call that? Yeah, symposium. Yeah, and so kind of what I was doing is just like the first thing that came to my head was that word for some reason, and so I just like Google searched it to see if it was even a word. I just like typed it or whatever, and then like I did that, and then there's like I don't know, I didn't even watch the video, but I think it's a song. Somebody else made a song. I didn't like step on their shoes, like making a song that's like titled the same, but like I looked at their lyrics, and it was like kind of, it all felt like it flowed together, kind of synchronistically, and so I just went for it. I think I might add like drum. It was like trying to figure out a way so I can like track some guitar, for and then like record it like this, so you guys can watch that process. Um, yeah, it's just kind of complicated, but I'm kind of just stumbling through it, trying to figure out a good way to do that, because I think that would be neat to share, because kind of take some of the, I don't know, mystery. I don't know if that's the right way. Just like with recording music, making music, and stuff like that. It's easy to kind of forget that human beings do that. It's just, especially with a lot of modern music, because it's so perfect. Where it's just like perfectly quantized and perfectly in tune and perfectly just put together. So it's just borderline not possible to play it live like that. It can be, but it's just to hit it perfect, like like you, and that's part of like the labels, kind of going in that flow, where it's just like, oh, it's make it perfect. It's timeless recording. We're in the business of moving units, and we want them to sound good and not have errors and things that are obviously distortions and weird and everything else. But it starts to kind of feel mechanical and soulless in a lot of ways. But that's just my opinion. But like yeah, but like I like to. That's why I like to record like some of the covers and stuff in just one take. Just straight through, because it feels more live, and I feel like live music versus this album music has a different energy to it, and this is part of my own preference. Like back in the day, when they used to record like that, because like they didn't have like digital where you can just cut and chop and quantize. It's like dealing with analog is different, and so it's like kind of like reel to reel, record it, without major fuck ups, but like when you like jam to like some of the older recording where they recorded more like that, a little bit more swing to it and a little bit more energy. I feel like, just because it's just more human and real. I like that too with like singers, where it's like I don't mind like there being like auto tone to kind of just tighten it up just a bit, but the shit where it's just going fucking all over the place, real robotic sounding, that you hear like a lot of mumble rap and just horse shit like that. It's just like where's the love and practicing your voice. It's like a lot of singers, they aren't born with it. That's I feel like a horse shit, like, oh, you're born with it. It's like, get out of here. These people probably been singing since they've been 3 years old. But like you can get good at anything through repetition and practice. Even listen to some of these popular things. It's just repetition, and the system saying, "Oh, this is really good. Can't you tell this is good?" And you gotta be an idiot not to realize this is amazing. Yeah, that's a whole nother. I could do a whole fucking playlist on music business illusions, and that's why even with like YouTube and social media, believing any of that stuff is reality is a mistake. It's so easy to buy plays and likes and dislikes and create illusions of popularity and buzz that it just takes this, it just takes some scratch and let's pay a journalist to write this. Oh, let's pay a a music writer. Where do you think these people get money? It's like all this free stuff. Oh, it didn't cost me a dime. I just get to sit here and enjoy it. It costs somebody something, for a reason. A lot of times, it's like, oh, sponsored by Pfizer. Why do you think that doesn't matter? Of course that matters. It's like, oh, we make 90% of our money that pays like for the studio and like all these employees from Pfizer. Um, we're gonna say what if Pfizer's doing some fucked up thing. It's like, of course they're not gonna say. It's like you work for them. It's crazy, but like yeah, but it is what it is. And so yeah, with that being said, I think I'm about. So thanks everybody for listening, liking, sharing, subscribing, commenting, all that kind of fun stuff. I appreciate your spiritual support and your financial support. Thank you for that. And until the next now, God bless.